you're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. It's your life, now what? I know that many of you are examining your life on a daily basis, examining the situations and circumstances that surround your life, the people you spend time with, the feelings and thoughts that you have, the dreams, the desires you have, the things that you want to accomplish in your life, the things that maybe you regret, the things that you wish would cooperate in your life, and the list goes on. In today's show, we'll be talking about your life, now what, but getting really specific about the things that we want in life and how do we attain it? How do we get those things that we want? How do we get it, and how do we hold on to it? And I know that many of us, all of us, have something that, well, we just don't seem to get right. That one thing that just seems to slip through our fingers. That fear we have, something that gets in the way. And I know that that can be very challenging and painful when you see what could be happening, and in the process you're dealing with this other stuff in your life. So first off, let's talk about what it is that you feel is missing in your life. And then we'll talk about what you love about your life. And then we'll talk about examining and figuring out how to get exactly what we want in our life. And nothing's perfect, and I think perfection is a crazy concept. I think perfection is that concept that we have in our minds that really takes us off target. It's that situation in our head that we think, oh, okay, we're going to have all this. This is all going to work. We think that other people's lives are perfect. We look at other people. We look at their lives. We compare our lives to other people. And we all know that social media has done really well in creating that reality. It's done really well to facilitate that type of situation, and in the process has created static in our own lives. So when we really examine our life, we have to examine, what is missing in our life, then what we love, then how to get what's missing. But we have to look at it separate from other people. And that's the first thing that's so challenging, is that I need you to separate your life from other people. And why I say that is that I feel that many people have an idea of what they think their life should look like at a certain age. At a specific age, people have this idea of what their life should be. I was recently reading an article, and that article is very interesting. I think it was in the New York Times, and it was about age. And it was talking about how most of us have this concept of where we need to be at by a certain age. And if we're not there, we consider ourselves underachievers. We consider ourselves slow, unsuccessful. Whether that's in business, personal life as far as romantic life, or even starting a family. All of these things are very interesting because it's all subjective. And it's all subjective, but the interesting thing is that it's based on an old calculation. And what I mean by that old calculation is the fact that back in the day, we don't have to be exact on timeline, but even 100 years ago, people were not living to the age they're living now. Not at all. And so the idea of getting married at an early age was because the concept of procreation and the concept of, well, you want to get married because you don't know if that person's going to die pretty quickly. And nowadays, because of healthcare and because of the things that we know and evolution, we're living longer than we ever have. But the problem is the old calculation. So we're basing our perceived success based on old calculations. Many of you may say, well, I don't own a business. I'm still paying off student loans. I'm still paying off credit card debt. I haven't had my first child and I want to have a child. I haven't even gotten married yet. Some of you may say, well, I've been married 3 times and I haven't found the right person yet. What does that say about me? Many of you may be wanting to have your own career, your own business, but you don't. And you worry and you stay up late at night trying to figure out why. And the problem that's really existing is the fact that worrying about that stuff and judging yourself only makes things tougher and more painful. And in that process, making things tougher and more painful, we lose sight of what we need. And I find it interesting because I work with lots of clients from all different walks of life. Lots of clients from all different walks of life, different ages, different career backgrounds, different upbringing, all that good stuff from all around the world. And the issues and the problems are the same. The fears are the same. And it seems like it doesn't matter what country you live in, you still have this old calculation of how successful you should be by whatever age you are. And I think that a lot of times, the first thing that we think about when we look at this old calculation is, because a lot of people are like, oh, you should be married no later than 25 and having your first child. You need to be married by 21, 22, having your first child by 25. All these things were kind of regulated and thought of. And we've been moving the needle a little bit, but 25 to 28 is not a big deal. But think about it. If you're 35 and you want children, you're already thinking, my gosh, I'm behind the 8 ball by 10 years. And that can be painful. Because not only do you not have what you want or what you think you need, you also feel, sad that something might be wrong with you. That something might be inherently wrong with you as a person. And this is where things get in the way. This is where we can create our own problems and create our own static in our life and not even realize it. When you think about your partnership, you think about marriage, you think about living together. A lot of people have a concept of what that looks like. And a lot of people feel like it has to look a specific way. How is it supposed to look? What is it supposed to be like? How does that look? And these are really, 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 really important questions for you to ask yourself. And those are things that you want to really think about. How does it look? Because many of you might say, well, I have a great friendship, but I don't have a romantic relationship. Some of you may say, I have a romantic relationship, but I don't have a friendship. Some of you may say, I have more of a business partner, but I don't have a friend. Some of you may say you have a cheerleader. Whatever that looks like, the spouse, the significant other. But it's interesting how you can look at other people's lifestyles, other people's marriages, and begin, or connection, or partner, or whatever, and you can begin to question your reality. You can begin to question the validity of your situation. And that's always interesting. That's always an interesting dynamic. That's always interesting to me because it makes sense to question things, and it makes sense. And so that's why I feel like we have to really analyze the situation, understand it, and see it for what it is. Am I looking at my life clearly, or am I examining it through the eyes of society? So think about it. Am I judging it based on societal, not really laws, but kind of societal laws? Am I judging it based on, other people my age? Am I judging it on the friends and family and how they're living around me? And I have many clients that say, hey, my friends and family, my family in particularly, their lives are very different than mine. I had a client the other day that was talking. She's been an executive, working a job for a long time, and she's married but hasn't had a family, hasn't started having children yet. And she said all of the people in her family all have like 3 and 4 children, and they all don't understand what's wrong with her. And that's hard, because what do you mean what's wrong with her? What does that mean? Why are we always trying to be right with our family? Why are we always trying to look a certain way, be a certain way? And it's hard because people put so much on you. And it's hard to have like a dialogue, because the problem is too is that some of those same people might actually have a career that's very lucrative and very time consuming, but somehow or not they figured out how to juggle it all. Some others maybe not so. Does it matter? No. But again, the judgment is still real. And how judged do you feel you are? How judged do you actually feel that you are? And that's a good question. It's a good question, because how judged do you feel you are? How judged? Because I think the more we feel judged, the more we feel fear. The more fear that we feel, the more bad decisions we make. The more that we rush into situations that we don't need to rush into. We make judgment calls and we do things that we do not need to rush into. And this, in and of itself, is very important to understand. This, in and of itself, is something that we need to understand, we need to examine, and we need to commit to. Because understanding this judgment and understanding how the judgment impacts and weighs us is very important, so that we can stop having that judgment impact us and impact our choices on a large way. How much is it impacting you? And these are big questions. How much is it impacting you? How much is the judgment of others impacting you? Very good question. Interesting. And how much of that judgment is impacting you to make different decisions? How much of that judgment is impacting you to make different decisions, or to make decisions that you don't necessarily want to make, or to make choices that you don't necessarily want to make? Because they're not really your choices. They're choices based on how other people are feeling about your life. And it's hard to really recognize that, because it can be hard to see that. It can be hard to understand when we are listening to others about our life, when instead we need to be listening to our own internal self tell us what we need to do. And that can be hard to hear, because we're so busy, being indoctrinated into the societal stuff, what our friends and family feel, what we're supposed to be doing, our role as a human being, our role as a female or male in society. We begin to question all those things and wonder, what is it honestly that we're supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be at? What role should I be serving? And I know these are all big questions, because I know that as a listener on Live Your True Life Perspectives, you are a deep thinker, somebody that thinks deeply. Sometimes you feel like you think too deeply. It can be even overwhelming. It seems as though you might be the deepest thinker you know, contemplating life, thinking about these situations. But these are real things to think about. These are real life situations that really do need our thoughts. They need us to be able to pay attention to them. And ultimately, we have to be able to understand if we are guiding our life by us, or we're guiding our life by what other people want us to do, and we don't even realize it. Stay tuned. I have a lot more coming up. We'll be talking about security, career, family, and the list goes on. Don't change the channel. And in the meantime, check out my website, ashleyburgess.com, Ashley, BERGES.com. You can work directly with me, and we can work out all these things and get to your life to exactly the way you want it, the blueprint you want. Stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with me, your host, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I'm talking about life. It's your life, now what? Right before the break, we were talking about the concept of adhering to social agreements, social concerns, as far as societal. Oh, well, you should be married by this time, you should have a career like this, you should have this many kids, and how we, even if it's just friends or family around us, don't realize how much we're impacted by those making decisions about us. And that can be very, very challenging. It can be very challenging to deal with that. It can be very challenging to be able to see, is this something that I want, or is this something that other people want for me? And I think this is a very important consideration. I think that until we really consider this and understand it for what it is, we really truly don't know what we actually want. We don't actually know if this is what we want or if this is what other people want for us. And that is my concern. That is something that's very important if you think about it. And I think that we all fall trapped into it at some point in our life about some aspect of our life, whether it's career, education, spouse, romantic, family. All of those things are very interesting when you think about it because they all come together. It's something that we're all wishing to have because that's what we want. And we want it by a certain age because that's what we think that we need. That is what we think we need to be successful. I need this to be successful. I need this to move on. I need this to declare myself as a success at my age. We see the headlines like Time and various magazines, the top whatever under 20, they're under 30 or under 40, top whatever under 40, and you go, oh my God, that person made XYZ before they were 40 years old. We won't go into some of the lineage of some of those folks or what happened to them later, but the majority of them seem to be fine. However, think about how that can impact you, how that can do a number on your mental and emotional state. I think that the societal laws, I think that what other people think, and I think what family and friends impact on you. For example, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, whether all your family has kids and you're the only one that doesn't, or you're the one that just seems to not be able to get the job. You seem not to be able to hold down a job, and everybody talks about how so-and-so doesn't seem to be able to hold down a career, while everybody else in your family seems to be able to do that just fine. It's interesting because I find that those are the judgments that we have on ourselves. We judge ourselves constantly on a basis of this issue based directly on our age and where we think that we should be at. And so I want you to just take a moment and ask yourself, is there a place in my life right now, a subject matter, a concern, that might be more of a concern to me because of outside influence? Think about it. Does outside influence have me more worried or conditioned to believe a certain way or to be a certain way? And that's something to really dig deep in. This is not something that you think about, oh yeah, all this has been outside influence the whole time. I get it now. No, this is some stuff that's like deep-seated. This is some stuff that you have probably racked your brain on, you have made decisions on, you have made snap decisions on making changes in your life. These are the big ticket items in your life, and so it can be hard to look at it in an honest truth and say, you know what? I have been a bit bamboozled by the situation around me. And I want you to just take a moment to deep dive into that and really think about that. A moment to deep dive, think about it, challenge yourself, and understand that. Take that moment right now. It might be multiple moments. You probably need to grab a notebook and some paper and see what we got going on here. Really, walk it out on paper, thinking about the different areas of your life, and look at it. Do I feel bad or stress or anxiety based on an outside influence that really shouldn't impact me? I got a lot more coming up, so please don't change the channel. We'll be talking more about jobs, security, family, and health, and everything else under the sun that goes along with your life. So stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with me, your host, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. It's your life, now what? On today's show, we're talking about your life. What matters to you, and how to know if something actually matters to you, but also that outside influence. How to understand if some of this is outside influence based, or if this is all what you actually want and desire. Right before the break, I was really trying to drive it home about the concept of really analyzing and really looking at your life honestly. What areas of my life have I been worried or stressed out about only because of societal influence or parental influence or family influence or friends? And that's something to really look at, whether you're saying, oh my gosh, whether you're influenced by magazine articles that say, the top 50 under 40 years old, and you go, oh my God, I'm not at that level. That's a big one. Or I don't have kids, and I'm hitting 40 almost. Or I don't have that career that I am super happy about. And it's interesting when you look at family too. Family can almost bring out the best and worst, right? Because you have people that are doing possibly things that you would like to do, and you have people that are doing the opposite. But a lot of times when you're in family dynamics, there's a judgment on how you're doing based on how they are doing, how their life is, what their life looks like. I had a client the other day that was just, at wit's end, because they said, I'm working hard. I'm trying to put myself through doctoral school, and they look at their family, their brothers and their sisters, and the brothers and sisters all have, gotten, multiple degrees, working successful careers where they're, some of them are even nationally known. Some of them have been able to do all this and have 3 and 4 children. And it really puts into perspective. And it's really hard because if you're judging yourself, you begin to judge yourself on all of these aspects, not just one. And my client said, I'm judging myself on the fact that I'm still putting myself through school. I'm judging myself that I haven't been able to really start a family because I haven't had the time and the ability to. And then I'm not at that career level. And, they were saying that every holiday is just almost a beatdown because you're seeing what other people are doing and you're feeling bad about not being there. Whether it is that all your siblings are getting married and you're the only one that's never really had a successful relationship, that can be really challenging. And all year, there's weddings and engagements all year, and it can be really challenging to be there and say, wow, this doesn't seem to be working for me. I'm this age, and I'm in fear of being alone. And when you're seeing everybody else get married or engaged, and some of you women and men out there looking at Instagram and seeing the rings and the engagements, it begins to make you feel sad, depressed, and overwhelmed because you're feeling as though you're missing the boat. But again, we're basing this on an age concept. And what I call that is what I was talking about in the first segment of today's show was the old calculation. That old calculation, because remember, we based on when we should have kids and get married and all that stuff based on an old calculation of, man, we're going to die soon. I mean, like back in the day, humans didn't live long. It wasn't like we had this long, luscious, luxurious life. It was painful. I mean, heck, we didn't even have like running water at one time. I mean, besides the fact that, AC took a long time to show up and the empowered vehicles. I mean, think about how hard life was and how challenging it was. And you didn't know how long you were going to live, and something as small as an infected tooth could kill you. And knowing that, there were decisions made at young ages to have kids. Women had kids at very, very young ages. Education was very little for many people. And now things have changed. And the medical industry has changed. And I'm not saying that it's the best right now, but I'm saying it has gotten a lot better, and things are there where you can live longer in a sense, and you can do things, and you don't have to sit there and race into life in the worry and anticipation that you might die at the age of 35 or 40 or 50. And so the whole idea of being middle-aged right now is, to me, that's just like an old, archaic concept. Middle age is old and archaic. It is an archaic concept because there really is no middle age. What does middle age mean? Middle age 50 now? I don't think so. I mean, they're talking about how people can live to 120. I mean, think about it. And the fact is that what does it mean, middle age? What does that mean? And how are we defining it? And I understand some of you say, well, there are some things, actually, that you got to do by a certain time. Like having children for women at a certain time, and I understand that. But you can also do a surrogate. You can also freeze your eggs. You can do a surrogacy. You can also adopt. Multiple levels. There's multiple things out there that you can do. So there is possibilities to the desires that you have. You know, I think that a lot of times we get into this conundrum and fear and worry and black hole of thoughts and process to a point where we almost get to a point of sadness in our own life. We're sad in our own life. We get sad, we get depressed because we feel as though I just can't seem to get this right. And you know, if you think about kind of like the lineup of things, like, you know, partner, your significant other, you know, having security, you know, having someone that's there, having some job security, feeling secure in your own life. You know, what about family? Have you started a family? Have you not? And I know that nowadays it's interesting too, because nowadays there's a lot of people that choose to have pets. Dogs, cats, birds, whatever, pigs, in order to have, you know, it's their children. And what's wrong with that? There's a large population of younger people who are choosing not to bring children into this world because of the state of where we are. And a lot of those people are also getting backlash. I have many clients that are at that age, that are in their 20s and 30s, who family and friends are giving them backlash because they're like, oh, you're going to miss this opportunity, the biggest opportunity of your life to have children. And what are you going to do if you don't have a child? I mean, that's your right. That's your rite of passage. That's what you should be doing. You should be planting your seed. And it's interesting because, you know, why? If they want to, they can, but if they don't want to, why? Why push somebody into doing something that's supposedly the social norm? What does it mean? Why do we all have to have children? Is that really responsible? Is that really what everybody needs to do, is to have a child? I mean, seriously, think about it. Think about kind of the crazy, kooky ideas that society brings up. And I'm not saying it's wrong to have children. If you have children, that's great. Some people can't have them. Some people don't necessarily want that. Some people would rather be the aunt or the godparent or the friend that occasionally takes care of the child, that they don't want to have a child 24/7. And so again, I think that we're changing the mold of the kind of the concept of family, the concept of nuclear family. I mean, very interesting stuff, right? I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, this whole concept is really changing on a dime, and it has been for a period of time. And you know, if you look at multi-dimensional concepts here, of all the concepts of what we want, you know, it's like we want this full life, we want all this, we want a balance. You know, in our life, we want some sort of balance. We need a balance. And how do we get that balance? How do we attain that balance? How do we make that balance a reality? And these are very good questions. But it's up to you, because I can sit there and present the information, which I feel like is helpful and gives a baseline for thinking and exploring. But then you have to make the decision on what you want in your life. You have to be the determining factor. Only you can determine what is best for you. Ultimately, you are the only one that knows. No one else. Only you. Only you know. And I want you to really think about that. I want you to really analyze what I just said, because other people, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your best friend, they don't know what you need. Maybe they have a good idea, but they don't know intrinsically what you need in your life to make you happy, healthy, all that. They don't know that. They don't. And that's the question. That's what you have to ask yourself. That's what you have to do, is really think about that. Really, really analyze that and think about, what does that look like to you? And that, to me, is so very, very, very important. So really think about it. Analyze that. Think about that. Because if we can determine what is best for you based on what you need, you can make the right decision to figure that out. But you got to get past what other people want you to do, what society tells you to do, what you think you need to do, and then also that comparing to others. Because, you know, you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And when we compare ourselves to others, we make mistakes. And that's where I want you to really think about it. We make mistakes. It's that simple when we compare ourselves to others. And so analyzing that. So looking at it, are there areas in your life that you feel that need changes? Are there areas in your life that you feel like you have a good beat on things? What are those areas? How does that look like? I mean, can you see a situation that makes sense? Does it make sense to you? And I think that this is where we need to begin the roadmap. This is where we begin to understand ourselves. And so think about it. Is there something in your life that you feel needs to be augmented? What is that? And really write it down. What needs to change? And why does it need to change? Why does it need to change? Okay, and write down what needs to change, why does it need to change, and what would it look like if it did change? And how do you augment that? How do you change that? Look at the series of actions. Are there a series of actions that you can take to make this a reality? And what are those actions, and how do you do it in order? And how do you keep yourself motivated? So, for example, if it's career and you want to make changes to that, what are the changes you need? What are the changes you want? How do you get there? And what's the order of operations? And, you have to, in the process, dispel the judgment that you are receiving or perceiving from others. Because sometimes others can be judging us, but sometimes actually it's our perceived judgment that gets in the way more of our happiness. Sometimes that perceived judgment is what creates more static than anything. And that to me is something to really analyze. That to me is something to really think about. That to me is the big gauge. That's the thing to think about. And so look at it, dispel the judgment. What needs to change? What can change? What doesn't have to change? Why does this need to change? Can I change this? What can I do? What can I do? How do I change that? And then what is the order of operations that I have to organize myself, my mind, my heart, my considerations, my desires in? And then what's the most important change that needs to be made right now? What needs to take front seat right now? What can take back seat? Because we really can't focus on everything. So if there's multiple changes that need to be made in your life, you have to take it one step at a time. We're not being able to race through things. We got to take it one step at a time. Analyzing the situation one step at a time. And seeing what that looks like. And so if you're there, think about it. What needs to change? What could change? How could it look better? And how do we get there? Do you have any support, or are you needing to analyze this and do this on your own? And this is something that I work with clients around the world about. We work through traumas and various different situations that we're dealing with, fears, anxiety, the mental records. But then we get to a point where we can actually make these changes in our life that make us happy, they make us more fulfilled, more well-rounded. And they give us a peace of mind because we realize that we are able to create massive positive change in our life. We are able to create this massive positive change. We are able to make things clear in our life and do what we need to do. And so if you get a chance, go to my website, go to Ashley Burgess, www.ashleyberges.com, and check it out. Go through the homepage, and then look, you can sign up for a coaching session right there online. And I would love to work with you. In the meantime, go to my YouTube channel. Check out YouTube. Put in Ashley, A-S-H-L-E-Y, B-E-R-G-E-S, or Ashley Burgess Life Coach. And you can find new content, video content up every single day that might speak to you on different levels of your life to help make your life easier, more manageable, and to make you feel more joy-filled. Stay tuned. The show's not over yet. Still talking about your life, so don't change the channel. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I'm talking about your life. It's your life, now what? And many of us have these thoughts and theories in our head about things we should be doing right now. Life we should be living right now, based on our age, based on our timeline, based on the people and family members and society around us. And we create these, these feelings of success or create feelings of sadness based on these different situations. And we can either look at our life in a really healthy way, or we can look at our life and be really upset about what we haven't achieved. And right before the break, I was talking about really analyzing your situation. If there's something that needs to be changed and needs to be augmented, first analyze, is this my want and desire? Is this really needing augmenting? Or is this a societal influence? Or is this a friend influence? Or is this an outside influence? Basically, eliminating the outside influence from being a part of the situation. If it is not outside influence, societal outside influencing, and there's ways of really analyzing that. Like if you're saying, God, I need to have a family and I can't believe I haven't had kids and I'm at this age, it really depends on what age you're at, because, science is advancing all the time and there's other ways of going around things. But some of you may be in your late 20s and worried, and you really need to be aware, or even your early 30s, you need to be aware that there is kind of more of a timeline on that than other things. But that's still not the age that you need to be at worry, at that type of level of DEFCON 5. And some of you might be looking at education and saying, I really wish I would have gone back and gotten my degree, or I really wish I would have gone back and gotten a master's degree, and now I'm 40 and I haven't done it. Well, there's some people going back to school at 85, 90 years old. So I get it. It's a timeline. But again, are you beating yourself up about the age of it, or can we look at it with clarity and take away the age, the old calculations, which is what I'm calling it? Can we take out the old calculations from our thought process and actually focus on our life? Actually live the life that we need separate from the old calculation timeline. And this is a big deal because many of you are basing your entire life based on this old calculation, based on what you should have, what you could have, what should have been, that don't really add up to anything except for more stress, anxiety, and fear in your life. We want to eliminate the stress and the anxiety and the fear in your life. These need to be eliminated, like ASAP. And the more that we add constraints that are not our actual constraints into our life, the more questioning we are about our life, the more that we fear. So I want you to really analyze that as you're working through that and analyzing the situation. Is there that fear around it? Is this really a huge concern? What are my changes I can make? What are series of actions that I can take? All of those things are important. And try to take the timeline out of it. This is going to really help you to really see things clearly. If you can take the timeline out of it. And so the next time that somebody says, ask you how old you are, or says, oh, well, you're at what age are you? Because you should be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. Shut them up to some degree. I appreciate your analyzation of my life, but, I didn't ask for that. You don't have to be rude. Just shut them down. It's just rude and it's wrong. And it's not right. And so really analyzing that situation and being cool about that and seeing it for what it truly is. And that will really help you to see your life clearly, but also to eliminate the static that you don't need. The static of people telling you and chiming in about how your life should look. Because how your life should look should be based on what you want it to look like. How do you want your life to look? How do you want it to be? It's your life. Now what? So I'll let you fill in that blank. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. In the meantime, if you'd like to work with me, just go to ashleyburgess.com. You can click on coaching session and set up an appointment immediately from the privacy of your own home. And we work digitally on various digital platforms to be able to meet from anywhere in the world that you may be. I look forward to having the opportunity to working with you. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about me, go to YouTube. Just go to YouTube and put Ashley Burgess, Berges, or put Ashley Burgess Life Coach or Life Coach Ashley Burgess, and you'll find all the video content. We put up new video content every single week, new podcasts, new radio shows every single week as well. So hopefully some of that stuff will resonate with you and will make your life even better than it already is. In the meantime, I hope that this show has resonated with you. Please share it with your family and friends. After the radio, you can find this show and a little variation on the podcast, any podcast, Apple Podcasts, to Spreaker, to Spotify, to anything. You can find it online. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.